Caitlin Clark broke a record that wasn't supposed to exist, and then the people who said she couldn't do it had to apologize in public. If you think you already know the Caitlin Clark story, I promise you, you only know half of it. Because while the whole world was celebrating the records, the deep threes, the sold-out arenas, something else was happening underneath all of it, something that made a respected veteran columnist lose his beat in front of the entire country, something that dragged a Hall of Famer into a war of words she never saw coming, something that left the most famous athlete in America off an Olympic roster and made the league have to defend that decision for months. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through all of it. The doubt she faced before she ever played a single professional minute. The records that made the old guard rethink everything. The apology that nobody saw coming, and the season that is happening right now, at this very moment, that could end with the biggest prize of all. Now here's the thing, the ending of this story is still being written. And there's one twist from this week that even caught me completely off guard. So whatever you do, do not click away. Watch this till the final line. Because the person you think Caitlin Clark is, you haven't met her yet. Before we go any further, let me say this. If you're watching this, you're the kind of basketball fan who wants the full story, not just the highlights, the real numbers, the real drama, the stuff that never makes it into the mainstream clips. So here's the deal. If that's you, take 2 seconds right now and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications, because I drop these deep dive stories on a regular basis, and I do not want you to miss the next one. For the people who are already subscribed, you already know how we do it here, and I appreciate every single one of you. This channel is only as strong as the people watching it, and your support genuinely keeps these stories alive. All right, buckle up. Because this story starts with her at the top of the basketball world, and the exact moment everyone tried to tear her down. The warning shot. Let's go back to the beginning. Not the beginning of her rookie season, further back, to the draft. Caitlin Clark walked onto the WNBA stage as the most anticipated #1 pick in the history of the league. And I mean that literally. The 2024 WNBA Draft, the night the Indiana Fever selected her with the first overall pick, averaged 2.45 million viewers, the most in WNBA Draft history, and the most watched WNBA telecast the league had seen since the year 2000. Nobody in the history of this league had ever arrived with that kind of spotlight. And that's exactly when the doubt started. Before she had even played a single game, the legends of the game were already weighing in. The greatest pure scorer the league has ever produced publicly warned her that reality was coming. Her exact message to every hyped rookie in that draft class was simple. The transition is not automatic, the level is different, and at some point, everyone gets a wake-up call. It was a classic welcome to the league moment. And listen, on one level, it was fair. College greatness has never guaranteed professional greatness. We've seen college superstars struggle in this league. We've seen players who dominated for 4 years suddenly look average against grown professionals who do this for a living. So the skepticism was completely understandable. But here's what the doubters didn't account for. They were measuring Caitlin Clark against every rookie who had come before her. And Caitlin Clark didn't seem to realize she was supposed to follow the rules. Even before the season started, the debates were everywhere. Does her game translate? Can she handle the physical play? Is she really as good as the hype, or is she just a product of the system? One Hall of Fame defender, one of the greatest to ever play her position, had been critical of Clark for a while, and the questions kept following her like a shadow. People on social media argued about her night after night. The national shows dedicated segments to whether she was overrated, and all of this was happening before she had played a single professional game. Now, I want you to hold on to that tension because it matters. Because what happened next didn't just answer those questions. It destroyed them, and it did it in a way that no rookie in the history of this league has ever done. The records that shouldn't have been possible. Here's where the story turns. Caitlin Clark finished her rookie season averaging 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game. Numbers like that, by themselves, would already make her a superstar. But she didn't stop there. She stacked history on top of history. 769 points. That's the most points any rookie has ever scored in a single WNBA season. 769. And remember, nobody, not one person, had ever come close to that number before her. Then she did the unthinkable. She broke the single-season assist record. Not the rookie assist record, the all-time single-season assist record. The previous record was 316 assists, a number that had stood as one of the most untouchable marks in the league. Caitlin Clark finished her rookie year with 337. She didn't just break it, she demolished it by 21 assists. And she did it in her first professional season. Let that sink in for a second. The most assists ever dished out in one WNBA season by anyone, ever, was done by a rookie who had been told months earlier that reality was coming. And the threes, 122 three-pointers, the most by any rookie in WNBA history. But here's the thing that gets lost in all the records, and I want you to really sit with this. Numbers only mean something when you compare them to the people who came before you. So let's do that. When the legendary guard I mentioned earlier, the greatest scorer in the history of the league, was a rookie, she averaged 17 points and just under 4 assists a night. An incredible rookie season. One of the best ever at the time. Caitlin Clark averaged 19.5 points and 8.5 assists. It wasn't close. Her assist numbers double the greatest scorers. And she did it while carrying the heaviest media spotlight any rookie has ever worn, while absorbing the hardest fouls, while becoming the most talked about athlete in America. Every single night. The awards followed immediately. She was named the unanimous Associated Press Rookie of the Year. Unanimous. Not a single voter hesitated, and then the voters did something even more shocking. They put a rookie in the MVP conversation. When the final MVP votes came in for that season, Caitlin Clark finished fourth. In her first professional season in a league with multiple former MVPs, the highest scoring core of legends the game has ever seen, a rookie finished fourth in MVP voting. That was not supposed to happen. That has never happened. Here's the part I want you to really understand, though. The records were only half of her impact. Because what Caitlin Clark did to the business of women's basketball was something that had never been seen in the history of professional sports. And that's the piece the highlight reels simply cannot show you. The Clark effect. Let's talk about money and attention, because this is where the story gets truly wild. Her very first professional game, her regular season debut against Connecticut, became the most watched WNBA game since 2002 and the most watched game ever on ESPN2 or any cable network. Her game against the New York Liberty a few days later set the league's ABC viewership record with 1.71 million viewers. 1.71 million people sat down to watch a regular season WNBA game in May. In the same week, her game set viewership records across 3 different networks. 3 different broadcasters, all setting league records in 1 week, all because of one rookie. Now let's talk about what happened in person, because this is where it gets even more surreal. In her very first month in the league, 3 different franchises, the Sparks, the Liberty, and the Storm, set all-time attendance records when she came to town. Their home arenas had never been that full, ever. Not in 2+ decades of existence. Multiple teams physically moved their home games against the Fever to larger arenas, bigger buildings, more seats, just to fit the people who wanted to see her play. One game against the Washington Mystics moved to a massive arena and drew 20,333 fans, the biggest WNBA crowd in nearly 2 decades. And by the end of that season, 2 teams set the highest regular season attendance in the history of the league, 20,711 people for her season finale. The Fever themselves finished the year with 340,715 total home fans, a single-season attendance record for any WNBA team ever. And the merchandise. On the day of the draft, her Fever jersey sold out in less than 1 hour. Less than an hour. By the first half of that season, her jersey was the best-selling jersey in the entire WNBA and the second best-selling basketball jersey in all of North America. Second, behind only the biggest global superstar the NBA has. Not LeBron's jersey sold more, not everyone else's. Only one player in basketball, men's or women's, outsold Caitlin Clark's jersey that year. Now, here's the part that made financial experts do a double take. A finance professor who specializes in valuing sports franchises ran the numbers on all of this and reached a conclusion that sounds ridiculous until you see the math. He determined that Caitlin Clark was personally responsible for more than 25% of the entire WNBA's revenue in that season. Attendance, television, merchandise, all of it combined. More than a quarter of a whole league's income generated by one rookie. And when he updated his numbers the following year, he said her presence had added a minimum of $875 million to the value of the league, with the potential to push it past $1 billion. That's not hype. That's the valuation math of an independent financial expert looking at real league revenue. So here's the thing. When you're generating that kind of money and that kind of attention, you would think everybody would be happy. You'd think the whole league would be celebrating. But that's not what happened. And this is the part of the story that most people don't want to talk about. Because the more she succeeded, the more she was attacked. And those attacks are the reason her rookie season nearly broke her, and the reason she came out of it stronger than anyone expected. The attacks. Let's be real about what Caitlin Clark faced in her first 2 seasons, because it was relentless. It started with the Hall of Fame critic I mentioned earlier. At the end of Clark's college career, when she broke the all-time NCAA scoring record, her famous critic made headlines by claiming Clark was in her 5th college season, a clear attempt to minimize the achievement and a claim that was simply wrong. The controversy blew up so badly that it became one of the loudest storylines in women's basketball. Then, during the rookie season itself, a rumor started spreading that this same Hall of Famer had called Clark nothing more than a system player, someone whose numbers only looked good because of the offense around her. The Hall of Famer had to come out publicly and deny ever saying it. But the damage was already done in the public eye. Every miss, every bad game, every turnover was amplified 100 times more than any player in league history. And then there was the physical side. Clark absorbed enormous punishment on the court. Hard fouls, unnecessary contact, the kind of aggressive treatment that sparked national debates about whether she was being protected. Her coach had to publicly call out the officiating. Multiple players around the league went viral for their treatment of her, and every single incident became a week-long national story. Imagine doing the most historic job ever done in your sport and spending entire weeks as the subject of controversy about whether you were being handled fairly. That was her reality. But the biggest attack of all came from a completely unexpected direction: the Olympics. Caitlin Clark was, without any question, the most famous basketball player in America, man or woman, heading into the summer of 2024. She was the biggest ratings draw in the sport, the biggest merchandise seller, the most talked about story in basketball. And then the news broke. She was not on the United States Olympic team for the Paris Games. Think about that. The most popular player in the country left off the national team. The reaction was immediate and massive. Fans were furious. Prominent journalists called the decision out publicly. The committee that chose the roster had to issue official defenses explaining that they'd prioritized experience and fit over popularity. The team went to Paris, and yes, they won the gold medal without her, but the controversy never fully died. Every time the WNBA season resumed, every headline, every broadcast, the snub came up again. And what did Caitlin Clark do? She didn't complain. She didn't lash out. She went back to the gym, came back to the league, and played the best basketball of her life. But I'll tell you something. That Olympic decision changed the way a lot of people in that league looked at her. She was no longer just the golden girl. She was the one they'd left behind. And she never forgot it. The apology that actually happened. Now we get to the moment I promised you at the start, the public apology. And here's the thing. It wasn't the scene the internet made up. Something better actually happened in real life. It happened at her very first press conference with the Indiana Fever, right after she was drafted. A veteran columnist from a major Indianapolis newspaper approached the podium, and in an attempt to be playful, to be familiar, to welcome the new superstar, he cringeworthily repeated the heart hands gesture Clark makes when she's acknowledging her family and teammates. He did it back at her, and the interaction turned awkward in a way that instantly went viral. Within hours, the entire internet was talking about it. The exchange was played on national television, dissected on every sports show, and the columnist found himself at the absolute center of a storm he never expected. He apologized the very same day. He posted publicly that his comment afterward was clumsy and awkward, and that he sincerely apologized. He wrote a follow-up column in which he went further. He said he was devastated to realize he was part of the problem, that he had messed up. And then the consequences came. He was suspended. He was removed from covering Caitlin Clark games in person. One of the most established voices in Indiana sports lost his beat over that moment. Just like that, he found out the hard way exactly what happens when you dismiss the biggest story in sports. You become the story. Now, here's why I'm telling you this. That moment, the real apology, became a kind of turning point. Because suddenly, every critic in the game understood something. Caitlin Clark was not just a player. She was a phenomenon that demanded respect. One writer learned that lesson in the most public way possible. But the critics who watched it happen learned it too. And the ones who still didn't learn it? She handled them on the court. Which brings me to the part of this story that very few people have paid attention to. The nights when everything went wrong and what she did afterward, because this is where her real character shows up. The comebacks. Here's what the highlight reels don't show you. In her first professional playoff game, Caitlin Clark had a nightmare. She shot 4 for 17 from the field, 11 points, against a physical Connecticut team that made her life miserable. Her historic regular season ended with a thud in the postseason, and the critics, oh, they were loud. You were right about her. She can't handle the playoff intensity. The regular season means nothing. She's not built for this. It was the worst moment of her professional career in front of the whole country, and everyone who had doubted her felt vindicated. But watch what happened next, because this is the part that tells you everything about who she is. She didn't make excuses. She didn't blame the officials. She went back to work. And the following season was the validation. The Fever finished the regular season at 24-20. They clawed their way into the playoffs. And then they did something nobody gave them a chance to do. The matchup everyone wanted to see all season. Caitlin Clark against the champions. The dynasty that everyone expected to roll over them. In Game 1 of the semifinals, on the road, in their building, in front of their crowd, Indiana walked into Las Vegas and won, 89-73, and Caitlin Clark was brilliant. The doubted rookie, the Olympic snub, the girl the old guard said was overrated, she took the fight to the champions and punched them in the mouth in their own arena. That series became an absolute war. Indiana won Game 4 at home by a score that shocked the league, 106-92, forcing a winner-take-all Game 5, 1 game away from the finals, 1 game away from the greatest playoff run in franchise history. And then they came up short, 2-3. The storybook ending slipped away. The champions survived. Caitlin Clark went home, having come within 1 game of the WNBA Finals in her second season. And here's what she did with the heartbreak. She went out and treated the champions like they owed her something. The next time Indiana went to Las Vegas, they didn't just win. They blew them out, 109-75. And in that game, Caitlin Clark became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 600 career assists in just 72 games. Let that number sink in. The fastest player ever in 72 games, not the fastest young player, not the fastest guard, the fastest player, period, in the entire history of the league. But even that's not the whole story. Because remember that playoff series? Remember the shooting struggles, the pressure, the critics circling like sharks? Here's the honest part of this story. During that playoff run, her shooting numbers dipped hard. She struggled from the field in the postseason. The critics had material, and they used it. The narrative became, she's spectacular in the regular season, but can she be a champion? That question is sitting there, unanswered, right now. And it is leading us directly to the season that is happening at this very moment. The season happening right now. Let me bring you up to speed on what Caitlin Clark is doing right now, because the people who stopped paying attention are missing the best version of her yet. This season, she's averaging nearly 22 points and over 8 assists a game. Again, night after night, one of the best guard lines in the entire league. But the hot streak she's on right now is something else entirely. Over her last 11 games, she has averaged 26.3 points and 9.4 assists while shooting 50% from the field. 50%. And in the middle of that stretch, she has been the league's leading scorer as a guard, outscoring every big, every forward, every specialist in the game. And she's doing it with the same fire in her eyes that she had in college. She's also been stacking history all over again. This season, she recorded her 4th career triple-double, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. And she became the fastest player in league history to hit one of the biggest milestone marks in the record book. She played her 20th career game with at least 20 points and 10 assists, the most such games in WNBA history. In the entire history of the league, no one has combined scoring and passing like this at this rate ever. Not the legends, not the MVPs, no one. And the MVP conversation, she's right in the middle of it. But here's the twist I promised you. This very week, one of the most respected sports publications in the world published a piece asking a question that has the entire league buzzing. If she's having this kind of season, the stats, the wins, the records, why is she still not at the very center of the MVP conversation? It's a question that exposed one of the biggest ongoing arguments in sports, whether she's measured by a different standard than everyone else. Some voters say she's firmly in the top 3. Others are still hesitant. And that debate, right now, is one of the hottest topics in basketball. Her fans are furious. Her critics are defensive. And she, of course, is doing what she always does, letting her game answer for her, game after game, night after night. But here's the honest truth that I have to tell you. This season, this exact moment, this window, it's make or break era for Caitlin Clark's legacy. The regular season brilliance is no longer enough. The records are no longer enough. The question everyone is asking now is the only one that has ever mattered in this sport. Can she win it all? Why this story is far from over. So let me leave you with this, and I mean every word of it. We are living through one of the greatest basketball stories ever told, and most people are only watching the surface. The records, the deep threes. But the real story is the one I just walked you through. The doubt that followed her everywhere. The attacks that never stopped. The criticism from legends. The Olympic snub. The columnist who had to apologize in public. The playoff heartbreak. And the way she keeps taking all of it and turning it into fuel. Every single time the world has tried to write her off, she has come back stronger. Every single time someone has doubted her, she has made them eat their words. And right now, at this exact moment, she is in the middle of the best stretch of basketball of her professional life, with the ultimate prize still in front of her. Here's the part I want you to think about, and I want you to comment your answer below. Is this the season she finally wins it all? Do you believe she can carry her team all the way to a championship this year, right now, while the window is open? Or do you think the story still has more chapters of heartbreak before the ending changes? I want to see your takes in the comments. And look, if you made it this far, you're the exact kind of fan I make these videos for. So hit that like button so more people see this story, and subscribe right now if you haven't already, because I can already tell you, the next video I'm working on is about something that's happening behind the scenes right now that almost nobody is talking about. A piece of this puzzle that changes how you look at everything I just told you. I'm not going to spoil it here. But if you think this story is over, you're wrong. It's just getting started. Thank you for watching, take care of yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one.